Joe Biden tried to do a victory lap today and spin this Afghanistan disaster into some sort of extraordinary success. Watch this.
No nation has ever done anything like it in all of history. Only the United States had the capacity and the will and the ability to do it, and we did it today. The extraordinary success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravery, and selfless courage of the United States.
He actually called losing the war in Afghanistan and the recent loss of the lives of our 13 service members an extraordinary success. It's unbelievable, and there's only one person who I can think of that might be just as fired up about this as I am. Let's see what Congressman Matt Gaetz thinks of that. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. Welcome back to the show. Congratulations on your recent wedding to one of the most fantastic girls I've ever known in my life, the amazing Ginger Lucky Gaetz, I guess now, right?
Yeah, I'm a happy husband, though I have to say my heart weeps for a country that has lost 13 heroes when we did not have to. Joe Biden should have understood that the Taliban was always going to take over Afghanistan after an American withdrawal. We had propped up a mirage of a government with U.S. blood and U.S. cash, and those folks, they ran at the first whiff of conflict with the Taliban. Had we planned correctly, had we faced the reality with a sober analysis, then those people would be alive today. Those heroes would be with their families. Instead, you had disorganization, you had a complete botched withdrawal, and I'm concerned that this has got reputational damage for the United States that will last for a great deal of time to come. It is a stain on the Biden presidency, and it's my hope that in the future we won't expect that entities like the Afghan government or the Taliban or any of these Middle Eastern despots will provide security for Americans, that we will put the interests of our people first, and that we will never again be in a situation with this type of totally needless loss of life. That's what breaks your heart about it. This life did not have to be lost. And now, Dr. Gina, have you seen Facebook and the tech oligarchs are actually censoring the family members of our fallen heroes when they're critical of President Biden's bad decisions? I mean, how terrible a country where social media platforms would deny a voice to Gold Star mothers.
Yeah. The only thing I can find about this whole situation that's even a little bit encouraging is that his popularity numbers have dropped so low, as you know, that he is in the definitely in the impeachment range, which is a good thing. But a lot of us don't know whether that would be better or not, considering what the alternatives might be. But Congressman, as you pointed to, our happinesses today, any that we can garner, even our own weddings, I'm sure, are bittersweet because they're tainted with the lies and the despicable, just absolute, horrific attitude of the left on every level, not just with Afghanistan. We were all in a state of despair before this, just over what Biden was doing with our economy and our border and all the rest of it. But today, you know, when they are asked, when this administration is asked about what they've done, rather than to ever take any responsibility for it, Congressman, they do things like this. Our Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, said, we only left about 100 some Americans behind. This is unfathomable. Listen.
We believe there are still a small number of Americans, under 200 and likely closer to 100, who remain in Afghanistan and want to leave. We're trying to determine exactly how many. We're going through manifests and calling and texting through our lists, and we'll have more details to share as soon as possible. Part of the challenge with fixing a precise number is that there are longtime residents of Afghanistan who have American passports and who were trying to determine whether or not they wanted to leave. Many are dual citizen Americans with deep roots and extended families in Afghanistan who have resided there for many years. For many, it's a painful choice. Our commitment to them and to all Americans in Afghanistan and everywhere in the world continues.
Congressman, fewer than 200, he says. So even if that were true, which just by my own friends that I know there, I know that's not true. But even if it were true, fewer than 200, we're supposed to just say no big deal to the thousands of lives already lost, the 13 lives lost just this week, and the people that are stuck there. Not even to mention the Afghani women and children that are being mutilated, raped, murdered, and tortured from this point on. Where are the gay rights groups, Congressman, while gays are being thrown off the buildings? Where are the feminists while women are being mutilated and tortured? Where are the humanitarians while little 9-year-old girls are being married off to Taliban soldiers? Where are the animal rights people that you hear from all the time? Where are these people when these dogs, these service animals, were left to die in a country that thinks they're unclean because they're Islamist-based?
Well, the woke left would rather criticize America, the greatest country in the world, than realize how some of the, fascist and tyrannical efforts around the world are really impacting people in a severe way. People should not trust a word that comes out of Secretary of State Blinken's mouth. How humiliating for the Secretary of State to say, well, it could be 200, it could be 100, it could be between the two, but closer to 100, and then expect that they are doing everything they can to get these Americans out. I mean, he said, what? We're calling, we're texting. The Department of State strategy in Afghanistan appears to be a version of you up. The greatest country in the world ought to be more capable than that. And the reason we are deprived of this capability is that Blinken gave Biden the advice that we ought to abandon the military base and keep the airport open because that's what would instill the most confidence in the fledgling Afghan government. When the reality is the Afghan government was full of a bunch of thieves and barbarians who were never worth the support that they got from the United States. So that singular decision to rely on the capability of the Afghan government resulted in American blood being spilled that did not need to be spilled, and exactly what you just articulated, Americans left behind enemy lines. That is something we never should have tolerated, and it was totally avoidable. I love how Biden goes out there today and is like, well, getting out of war is kind of messy. This stuff always happens. No, if we would have known at the outset that there was never going to be anything other than Taliban rule upon the departure from Afghanistan, we would have done what was necessary on the front end, and we would have ignored the tragic and deadly advice of fools like Blinken and Austin and Milley.
Another ridiculous line from Biden's speech today is this one, where he said the United Nations is making sure that anyone who wants to leave Afghanistan can do so because he said they passed a resolution. Listen.
Secretary of State Blinken is leading the continued diplomatic efforts to ensure safe passage for any American, Afghan partner, or foreign national who wants to leave Afghanistan. In fact, just yesterday, the United Nations Security Council passed a resolution that sent a clear message about what the international community expects the Taliban to deliver on moving forward, notably freedom of travel, freedom to leave.
So the UN passed a resolution. I bet the Taliban's just quaking in their brand new U.S. military-issued boots, Congressman.
Yeah, the Taliban, is killing and torturing people who have documents that would allow those folks free passage. But somehow Joe Biden thinks that a UN resolution is going to make the difference. We couldn't even ensure safe passage of our people when we were there. And now that we're gone, we somehow think that's going to happen. Look, this is increasingly about money, Dr. Gina. There is a lot of money that was U.S. provided to the Afghan government that those leaders couldn't steal on their way out of the country, and the Taliban wants that money. And so I certainly hope the United States doesn't get into the business of negotiating with these terrorists and giving them access to dollars that were earned by Americans.
Congressman Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, says that the Biden administration is considering sending cash to the Taliban. Unbelievable. Listen.
When it comes to our economic and development assistance relationship with the Taliban, that will be about the Taliban's actions. It will be about whether they follow through on their commitments to safe passage for Americans and Afghan allies, their commitment to not allow Afghanistan to be a base from which terrorists can attack the United States or any other country, their commitments with respect to upholding their international obligations. It's going to be up to them, and we will wait and see by their actions how we end up responding in terms of the economic and development assistance.
So we all know about when. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You know, I guess history repeats itself, Dr. Gina. I mean, in the 80s, we funded the Taliban. Then in the early 2000s, we fought the Taliban. And it sounded like from what Jake Sullivan was just saying, we're going to be back in the business of funding the Taliban again if they are sufficiently unnaughty and do the things that we expect them to do. The Middle East is like a crazy jihadist merry-go-round that we just have to get off. What's about to happen in Afghanistan is a civil war. ISIS will be engaging in violence against the people of Afghanistan. They are going to have kinetic conflict with the Taliban. And rather than simply trading which square dance partner we're with in the Middle East, we should, in my opinion, be less involved in funding the people that ultimately have really a lot of evil in their hearts.
Yeah, I don't think they're too concerned about what we're doing, frankly, because I think they've made a lot of money in the way that Biden did this, and China's definitely got their back at this point. Congressman, before I let you go, I have to ask you about some breaking news. Just moments ago, news broke about an extortion plot that targeted your own father, and you talked about this months ago right here on this show, and the mainstream news media called this fake news. But now someone has been indicted for this, and it's high time that someone harassing you were finally indicted. Tell us about this breaking news and what it means.
5 months ago on this very day, I made the accusation that 3 people, one was a DOJ former official, one is a former Department of State contractor, and one is this sort of con man, that these 3 people were working together to extort me and my family on a pile of lies, things that were totally false. And we got the news today that one of those 3 people, the con man, has been indicted. But Stephen Alford, who was indicted today for extorting my family, was not acting alone. He had support and coordination with people who have deep ties to the United States federal government. So there's more to come on this. But I think the American people can take some comfort in knowing that I have been straight with them. I have been honest. I have been transparent. And these things that they've said about me are false. And the allegations I've made against my extortionists are now resulting in indictments.
This is really great news, and a little justice served cold is wonderful. Congressman Matt Gaetz, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all you do, for continuing to stand up for America first when so many are cowering, and our most heartfelt congratulations to you and your beautiful wife, Ginger.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gina. You're one of her favorites.